Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I'm so excited to have this conversation. The four of us talked together at APMP's BPC session in New Orleans, and we just had such a great audience response. The room was standing room only. We had great questions that we thought we'd like to try to share our conversation with a wider audience. So, we think this is a relevant and great conversation, especially for proposal center directors and anyone involved in change leadership in your organization, or if you want to understand about how to make decision making on AI enabled proposal development, we think that you'll find this conversation fun and enlightening. I'm Amy McGady. I'm a senior vice president of strategic services at Shipley Associates, and I will let the panelists introduce themselves.
Hi, everyone. I am Carrie Jordan, and I am the Global Director of Proposals at Microsoft.
I'm Vishwas Lele, and I'm co-founder and CEO for pwin.ai.
My name is Marty Hum, Shipley Vice President of Innovation, and I lead our research and development in our AI capabilities.
Great. Well, thank you. And thank you for joining me again for this conversation. So, Carrie, I'll start with you. What has been your vision for leading Microsoft's Proposal Center of Excellence?
Yeah, so it was the opportunity of a lifetime to come here and create the Proposal Center of Excellence at Microsoft. And it has always been my vision since we got here to make the best proposal shop in the world and the best proposal shop to work for. And that means that I'm always focusing on excellence, on quality, obviously team culture, and a great work-life balance. And I also want to make sure that my team and proposal services in general at Microsoft are built into the fabric of the way that Microsoft sees sales enablement. And that also means that we're continually innovating and growing and trying to be ahead of the curve in the industry.
Well, in terms of being ahead of the curve, will you tell us a little bit about when you became aware of generative AI and started thinking about its potential as an industry game changer?
Yeah, so about a year and a half ago, when ChatGPT kind of started becoming more mainstream, I think a lot of people in the industry were instantly thinking, "Wow, I think proposals is probably a really obvious use case for AI." And I was reporting to the CVP of Public Sector at Microsoft at the time, and right away we were brainstorming, and she said, "Carrie, I need you to create a V team of AI for proposals and just figure out what the possibilities are out there." So right away, I enlisted Marty on my team. Marty contracts to my team in Microsoft, and I said, "Hey, can you help me create this V team?" And we enlisted another Shipley consultant, Lisa Duplessis, and they kind of ran with this, creating an AI champion group is what it's really morphed into. But to test what was out there with ChatGPT was really all that was available at the time. And then we anxiously awaited Copilot as that came out with the build announcements last year, and the murmurings at BPC last year through this year. So we've really been staying at the cusp of what's happening and trying to ideate all the different ways that we could integrate AI into what we do. Obviously, working for Microsoft, there's a lot of pressure to adopt the latest in technology, especially AI. And so we knew that we needed to be ahead of it. And I wanted to make sure that I was telling my management what direction my proposal team was going to go with AI versus them telling me. So we were really proactive right away. And so we were just evaluating things and testing use cases and envisioning what this could possibly be as we waited for things to actually be released.
I remember talking with you a lot in those early days, and so many things that we did not know then that we do know now, so much terminology we were unfamiliar with. But would you describe kind of your early days reaction to that realization that you really needed to start taking AI seriously?
I was very curious, and I knew it was something I sort of had to do, but I think personally, honestly, I was very hesitant. And then in the beginning, I sort of personally boycotted all things AI because I was very weirded out about it. I had some initial skepticism that I think a lot of folks have about bigger picture things, jobs, economy, that kind of the initial fear that you have when something new and big is coming up. So I was concerned about all those things, but still kind of exploring the potential with the AIV team. And then I had a project for my kids' Montessori school that I caved and I asked ChatGPT to help me create this like mission statement and this whole program. And I was able to do what would have taken me about 4 to 6 hours in 15 minutes. And as someone who's highly ambitious and like takes on too much stuff, I was like, oh my gosh, I could do things better and faster. And so I just realized I couldn't kind of ignore the potential there, and immediately saw so much more applicability into the proposal and sales world. And I just realized that the potential impact is massive. So I decided to, I'd say, proceed cautiously.
Well, okay, Marty, I'll just switch gears to you. What opportunity did you see for AI in proposal development? What was your initial vision?
Yes, so in Shipley's support to Microsoft, like Carrie said, we immediately started looking into AI for our proposal center of excellence. What could it do to enhance what we do? I experimented with the GPT-4 model and found it had remarkable capabilities beyond what we think of as traditional software and tools. This was definitely something fundamentally new. Wasn't sure what that was exactly, but the opportunity I saw was if I could identify the specific complementary nature of AI's advantages and human advantages, I could analyze Shipley methodology, both overall and down to any process step or task, to determine how best to incorporate AI in a way that realizes value from AI while granting more time and energy to the business development professionals to perform what only humans can. So as far as the vision, the outcome would be a transformation of BD in terms of the standard of quality, success, and speed.
So when you're talking about like that, you could try to find that sweet spot of human and technology interaction. Were you able to do that?
I believe I did, and if not, especially a way to get there as a journey, as an exploration for all of us in the profession. That research became our first book, the Shipley BDAI Primer, and we immediately put that research and material to use with Microsoft in our proposal center, and that material and research continues to evolve and grow overall as what we call Shipley BDAI.
Thank you for that. Vishwas, can you tell us about what was your vision when you started trying to assemble the best engineering team to come up with a generative AI solution for proposals?
Yeah, thank you, Amy. Uh, it's very clear, right? In order to build a successful product, you need to have a cross-functional team, people with varied backgrounds who come together. We knew that we just couldn't take 5 smart developers and start building a proposal tool and go and tell proposal professionals how to write proposals. We knew that was not going to work. So the way we started, of course, is we started with data scientists who had deep experience with these AI models. We quickly added people with experience in user experience because accessibility, inclusivity are going to be very important with any tool. We wanted to make sure that we don't add cognitive load on already teams who are working under strict deadlines. We didn't want to add to their load already. Fortunately, we had a lot of experience, more than a decade of experience working in Azure technologies and Azure AI technologies. We put that into place, brought a number of MLOps, DevOps engineers. And then, as we know, security is paramount in any of these solutions, as I'm sure all the listeners will agree to. So we brought in people who had worked with Azure security, not just Azure security, but in Azure Gov, who had experience with compliance, who had experience with standards such as CMMC2 compliance, who had done this kind of work with other government agencies. So bringing this team together, Amy, is what allowed us to build this technology quickly. And of course, the richness of the underlying platform helped us immensely as well.
Thank you, Vishwas. So, Carrie, as you have been evaluating AI solutions, can you tell us about your experience doing this? What were you looking for when you started looking into this technology?
Absolutely. Like I said earlier, the pressure of selecting this technology for not just my team, but potentially for a much broader use case across the sales organization at Microsoft is non-trivial. And so I've taken it very seriously. And I'd say this past 9 to 12 months, this has been my number one priority, is making sure I make the most researched and well thought out decision, because it's a lot riding on this. And for me to go to my executives and say, there's a lot of options out there, this is the horse that I'm picking, I've got to feel really confident in that. So like I said, I've spent the last 9 to 12 months really kind of obsessing over what I wanted this tool to be able to do and pulling together all the requirements of what I thought a tool like this should be able to do, and took that kind of high bar that I set and then just started measuring tools against it. So, when Copilot first came out, we were really hoping that it would be able to do this. We were really hoping that just M365 Copilot out of the box, or even a somewhat customized Copilot, would be able to do this use case of really accelerating a first draft for proposals. And while Copilot can help with various portions of accelerating a proposal, it's definitely not nuanced enough, and it's not at all trained on Shipley or APMP quality winning proposals and those best practices and the need to reprompt every time and all that. It's not made for this. So it can definitely help with things, and we use Copilot to accelerate certain parts of our proposal process and operations, but it doesn't do it to the degree that I was hoping. And so we were evaluating internal first-party tools. So I spoke around, to the Copilot and various engineering teams within Microsoft and showed them my very high maintenance list of everything that I wanted this tool to be able to accomplish. And I think I'm just technically savvy enough to have this list, but probably not savvy enough to realize whether it's realistic or not. And so I might have annoyed some people internally, but they're like, no, Carrie, we're not going to build that. And especially once I give them a demo, or I had Vishwas give them a demo of PWin, they said, Carrie, it would cost us so much money and over a year for us to be able to try to replicate that. Like, just go third party, get it in Azure Marketplace so that we can, have a co-sell opportunity. And then it can just be a great, it's built on Microsoft. So it's a great use case and really a no-brainer for me. And the fact that it met all those requirements. So we started evaluating those third-party tools. I created a requirements matrix with all of the use cases and process flows and everything that I wanted it to be able to do. And the technology aspect was really important. Like, the technology has to do everything that I'm expecting it to do, but it was also really important to me that it wasn't just technically accurate proposal content that it was generating, but that it was written with proposal Shipley industry best practices, that high quality proposal writing, and that it would be easy for my team to use. So there was a lot of quantitative, sort of like very specific tactical functional requirements that I had for it, but then there were some qualitative things too, like ease of use, quality, and things like that.
Yeah, well, at Shipley, we were also hoping that Copilot would have everything that we would need, but we spent pretty much all of last year vetting AI technology solutions. We met with all the developers in our space, and clearly there are a lot of really smart people trying to develop solutions that proposal experts need. We have not been in the habit of forming exclusive technology partnerships, but as we got to know the PWin AI team, as we demoed their product, we knew that there was something really different there, and that this was the first time in our 50-year history that we've entered an exclusive partnership. And we did that with PWin AI. But Vishwas, since you are the CEO of PWin AI, not I would love to know from your perspective what our audience needs to know about what makes PWin AI different.
Yep. Thank you, Amy. So first of all, we like to think about PWin AI as a special purpose copilot designed for proposal writers. And Carrie just said that M365 Copilot is a great general purpose Copilot. And if you have not used it, I encourage you to try it out. It can look at all of the data sources that you may have in your enterprise. It can look at the interactions that you may have with your colleagues, and it can come up with great answers in a wide variety of scenarios. We were, of course, building a special purpose Copilot, which deeply understands the proposal domain. So we essentially ended up building a layer on top of the language model, which essentially understands this proposal domain well. Now, what do I mean by that? Let me just take a step back and explain. When we started building this tool, we looked around, and what we found was there are a number of tools out there doing a good job, being effective, but essentially wrappers around ChatGPT, right? So what they provided was a nice RAG pattern on top of ChatGPT, along with the UI where people could take questions from RFP, enter those questions, and get responses back. And that helps in some ways. But what we wanted to do was we built a layer around the ChatGPT which understands the proposal concepts. So there are terms that proposal professionals understand. We wanted to make sure that we take those concepts into account. We enable the proposal professional. We always like to say that we are a co-pilot, not an autopilot or a pilot, which means we rely heavily on the experience of a proposal professional. Proposal professionals can come in and set the vision. No proposals are won without having a clear vision for how you want to accomplish this submission. And Shipley has a term for that. Marty's excellent book has a term for that called the master artifact, where you're really setting the vision. That becomes essentially the blueprint that our co-pilot takes to essentially take your vision that you defined in great fidelity, and then without you having to deal with all the prompts and optimize the prompts, we do all of that for you. We are generating all of the prompts based on the vision that you've provided us. So that's the second important difference. The third difference that I'd like to point out is, in order to be an effective AI solution, it requires that you combine AI engineering with good domain expertise. And where would you find better expertise related to proposal development outside of Shipley? So that's where our partnership with Shipley, bringing in this expertise of Shipley's best practices that have been developed over 50 years and infusing them in the prompts that we generate is going to be key for us. So that's the third most important differentiator as compared to other tools, Amy.
Well, for us, we were really confident in our BDAI philosophy. So, as Marty just mentioned, we were confident that we were on that right track about, how do you maximize the unique skills that humans bring to business development and proposals, and then the unique abilities that generative AI could bring to this domain to write compelling and compliant and winning proposals. As you mentioned, Vishwas, that idea of the master artifact, having a single document where you could organize all of the key information that's needed for generative AI to actually draft a winning proposal, not just based on RFP requirements, but also on your win strategy, your own capabilities that you've written about, all of the things that we as humans do when we start a proposal. And when we met the PWin AI team, we hadn't yet published the BDAI primer, but it was like you had read an advanced copy. As you started talking about how you are working to enable the Shipley BD lifecycle, it was so clear that we were onto something together. Carrie, you mentioned several of the things that you came up with this robust requirements matrix and went around Microsoft trying to see, was there anyone that could meet your requirements needs? But what were your real hot buttons, do you think, if you had to narrow it down for what you were really looking for when selecting an AI solution?
Yeah, so the first is definitely security. Microsoft, obviously, we have a saying, Microsoft runs on trust, security, and a zero trust approach is what Microsoft takes to everything. So I knew that there was going to be a very rigorous like security policy and process that we were going to have to put whatever tool we chose through. And so security of our company data, of customer data, partner data, all of those things I knew was going to have to be, was absolutely going to have to be a component to this. And so right away though, this, PWin's tool surpassed the security requirements that I knew of, and even some that I didn't know of. And then, we have had to go through, the typical corporate red tape of onboarding an AI tool as a third party, but PWin has kind of passed everything really easily. And so security was a huge piece. Like I knew that it needed to be able to deploy on Azure Gov so that Microsoft Federal could store their public sector proposals in there. And I knew that that was going to be a key thing. So security, I was nervous about up front, but then quickly my fears were allayed there. And then quality, like I said before, just being technically accurate was not good enough. I think there's a decent number of tools out there that can auto-generate with AI a technically accurate answer, but that wasn't good enough. I don't want just a technically accurate 50-page response that then my team still has to spend dozens of hours and days making it sound readable and value proposition and Shipley and APMP best practice. So the Shipley partnership really ensured for me that the prompting under the hood and then all that the quality of what was going to come out was going to be really high. And the fact that PWIN actually ran this through their own proposal shop as their first kind of firing squad, I thought was really great. I was really happy. I feel like a lot of these tools are developed without proposal people's opinions. Like there aren't proposal professionals, and so the fact that the proposal professionals were greatly involved, quality was really important. And then lastly was adoptability. So I needed to make sure that it was a tool that my team would want to enthusiastically use and that wouldn't be threatened by and that would be easy for them to onboard, and not just my team, but potentially broader seller base at Microsoft. So security, quality, adoptability were my three kind of hot buttons as I was searching for a solution.
Well, Marty, you have been so focused on that writing quality hot button. So I'd love to talk with you about that. And I'd love for you to share with us when PWIN AI says, it has Shipley inside, what does that mean in terms of writing quality?
Sure. Ultimately, quality of output from PWIN AI is my chief concern. For decades, there have been plenty of software tools related to business development and proposals. I've always tried them out while keeping in mind whether it's actually saving me time or doing something I couldn't do on my own. If the accuracy and quality wasn't there, like with an RFP shredding tool, for example, I might as well have done it myself from the start because of how much time I would have to spend checking and correcting. So when it comes now to today with AI technology for BD, quality of output is essentially how well does it meet the standard of the business development professional for the Shipley trained professional for the task at hand. Can they use it nearly exactly as it comes out? Does it reflect Shipley process and Shipley best practices? That's the bar I've set for what we call Shipley Inside. So Shipley Inside PWIN AI is how I'm helping turn my BD AI research and techniques into the inner workings and prompting behind the scenes in the solution. So it really ultimately wows highly performing Shipley trained professionals.
Yeah, I think for people that are more loosely, informed about Shipley, we might focus just on Shipley's process elements, which really are good and use the rigor that we need for good proposals. But for me, what is kind of that cornerstone of a Shipley proposal is really how customer focused it is, how it really reflects that deep relationship with a customer, and getting a generative AI tool to be able to do that, I think is no small feat. So, Carrie, ultimately, you've had to make a decision. Have looked outside for a generative AI solution. Why did you choose PWIN AI, and why was it important to you that Shipley be involved in this?
Okay. So I ended up choosing for multiple reasons. The first is because it just fits so seamlessly into my existing proposal process. So my proposal process and the Proposal Center of Excellence is not surprisingly based on Shipley and APMP methodology, those kind of best practices. We have a large Shipley presence in the Proposal Center of Excellence at Microsoft. And so it was really critical to me that this tool really dock into our existing processes and SOPs so that my team didn't have to have a strong cognitive load of changing and absorbing kind of a new tool and a new process. So the ability to just dock into my existing SOP for my team was huge. Like I said, the security perspective was very important. The ability to deploy in Azure Gov. I'm making this decision with Microsoft Federal, and they have, highly secure proposals that they have higher security standards than I do. And so the fact that it worked for them, I knew would make it work for me. The flight plan, Amy, you just talked about the ability to fine tune that flight plan. And that for me is a huge differentiator for PWIN because I haven't seen another tool that allows the proposal professional to tweak the customer centric aspect of it, to put in hot buttons and win themes and things like that to make sure that, again, the content isn't just technically accurate, it's coming out with a customer centricity, which is, as we all know, what wins proposals. So the ability to tweak that flight plan was really exciting. The reduced time to first draft, I think we get to automate and accelerate away a lot of the manual drudgery that proposal professionals have to, a lot of those long hours and nights and weekends, I think we get to accelerate that away with this tool and focus on the strategy. Like the fun parts of being a proposal person is the strategy and kind of those fun compete elements. And so I knew that my team would be really thrilled about that. The ability to scale it to the sales field. I have ambitions to enable the whole sales field at Microsoft with this eventually, and the fact that it's such an easy learn and easy UI, easy to use was really important to me. I really enjoyed that the leadership at PWIN was or their willingness to like take feedback from me as a customer on potential future of the tool. That was very important, as I want to feel like this is a partnership and that they value, my entire background is in proposal. So I'm not just choosing this as a proposal director, but as a proposal manager and a proposal writer and these other roles that I've had in the past. And so the technical, feature suggestions that I have, I'm really grateful that this team is willing to listen and they take that seriously. So that from a partnership perspective, I really, really valued. Shipley inside, like I already said, that the importance of having Shipley and that prompt and that best practice under the hood is critical to me. And just knowing that Marty is running that made me feel a lot better about knowing that, okay, not only is this the best tool, like technologically, but quality wise, it's going to have everything that I needed to have from a quality perspective. And then the last thing is I feel like it de-risks more than any other tool out there because of the reports. So the reports that come out when you generate your first draft, the hallucination report, the completeness, like compliance report, and the citation report, I haven't seen that with any other tool either. And so those things for me, my executives love to hear that we're de-risking. My proposal teams feel a lot more comfortable with using AI, knowing that these reports exist versus all the manual checking that you would have to do without these kind of reports and other tools. So it's a lot of answers, but like I said, I had a long list that I was evaluating against. So, and this is really only a portion of it, but those were the things that really stuck out to me.
Yeah, those things were all the things that stood out to us, I think, too, as proposal professionals. And Shipley, in addition to playing this, essential role in product development and having our guides and other things in the PWIN AI tool, the other thing is we have developed some training and professional services to support the rollout of PWIN AI with teams like yours at the Proposal Center of Excellence. Some of the concepts that you have talked about, or that we've all talked about, the concept of the flight plan, the various compliance reports, understanding the security of PWIN AI. And then one thing we haven't talked about much is the chatting feature, which is something that is in the Shipley BDI primer too, the ability to talk with your data and understand, where have I done this work before? All of those things are part of our training on AI. So just we take the same approach basically that Marty took in our book as well. How could you use AI generally, but then the specific use case of, how can you use PWIN AI within your proposal development shop, and people that take that training get to play with PWIN AI and use a sandbox environment to test out these features. Part of all those services is offering different services to support adoption. So, Carrie, where are you and your team right now in your adoption journey?
Yeah, so Marty has stood up this great AI masterclass for the Proposal Center of Excellence, and that is AI masterclass led by our AI champion group, which is still the core group that we had started over a year and a half ago now. And that has really generated a lot of energy. We've taken a change management approach. Shipley has helped advise on just changing the overall, not changing, but charting the way that the proposal team could potentially think about this and helping them feel comfortable about it. And so we all started by reading the BDAI primer by Shipley, that Marty wrote for Shipley. And that was that's where I would recommend anybody start, because that is a great starting place for people to really wrap their head around what this is. And it's in a really approachable, non-threatening way. And it's actually really entertaining. I don't know how Marty made a book on AI and business development so entertaining, but it actually is a really enjoyable read. And so starting there, that was really the catalyst. And I think once people read that, and we started this AI champion group and the AI, in the masterclass, we are currently piloting the pwin.ai and our teams are using it. We're in the tool and running projects and doing exactly what we hoped that we would be able to do with it, which is getting, cutting time to first draft by like 92%. I mean, it's just massive how quickly our team is getting excited about this because they see how much time they're going to save in their day-to-day operations in their day-to-day time. Like we might even not have to work weekends anymore for proposal people. So yeah, we are in the thick of it, and we're really enjoying everything that we're seeing so far, and everyone's really enthusiastic about it. Our users are really enjoying it. My leadership and my executives are really happy that we're proactively doing something about this. And from a career perspective, it's been a really great opportunity for me to lead for my team as well.
Yeah, I mean, the masterclass has really been an important part of our strategy to help get users on board. Vishwas and I were at a dinner last week, actually, after we recorded this talk the first time in New Orleans, and sitting with CEOs whose teams were investing in, generative AI solutions. And one of the things that many of them brought up was kind of the pitfall of if a company invests in an AI solution, but the team doesn't quickly start getting on board and adopting it. It's really, you've spent the money, but you've not gained any of the efficiency, and how a team can get upset pretty quickly about that. So, Marty, Carrie has said that this masterclass has been a real accelerant in Microsoft's adoption journey. Can you tell us a bit about the masterclass?
Yes, and this is one of the keys to your organization's AI adoption journey, to identify and organize the people, all of your roles, proposal managers, writers, designers, who are most interested and enthusiastic about AI. They become your AI champions. As we deploy P1 AI in Microsoft's Proposal Center, we've taken our AI champions as the first cohort to learn P1 AI in a masterclass series. Once a week, we've been learning P1 AI's features and functionality, but also holding open discussions about where exactly we see the solution fitting into our unique process there, what measurable outcome that could achieve, and ultimately how to rework our process to maximize that. This master class approach is a key to success with an AI solution because it drives the investment all the way through to outcomes, not just acquisition of software.
Yeah, it seems like there's such a great hands-on experience week to week working with both people from P1 AI and Shipley to really get in with a team of people who work together every day and really talk about not only learning the technology, but have an opportunity and space to talk with each other about, like, so now how does this work for us? Yeah, huge thanks to both Vishwas and Marty for all the great work on that. And you too, Carrie, for bringing together a team. As we wrap up, Carrie, what are the payoffs that you're experiencing from this journey so far?
Yeah, personally, I feel just immense relief right now that I've made the decision, and I'm confident every day that it was the right one. Like I said, there was a ton of pressure personally and professionally to make this call. So a huge weight is lifted off my shoulders as my team is excited. Like I said, they're using it. We have such great questions in this masterclass, and it's such a great three-way conversation between Shipley, PWin, and Microsoft as we're implementing it. So I'm happy that my team is happy, because I think a lot of proposal people are scared of AI. Understandably, I was at first too. So that's the most important thing. Like I said, best proposal shop in the world, best proposal shop to work for. And so the fact that they're happy makes me happy. The RA, like responsible AI things that we had to go through, those kinds of tests, the security and privacy reviews, accessibility, we've really put this tool through the ringer, and PWin has been such great sports with us. So the payoff for me is that having gone through all of those reviews that Microsoft has, like I said, we have like a really stringent requirements on those things. That's kind of further solidified that I made the right call, because PWin passed everything, and we went through and it was and we were able to do this. So I think that for me was another piece of relief. So that's a big payoff in that I feel like I made the right call. And then, like I said, my leadership is super happy. I mean, they are thrilled that I proactively went forward and said, I'm going to solve this for my team. This is what I'm expecting to come out of it. And I've proactively given them updates. And for me, just being able to choose the direction for my proposal team of exactly where we're going with AI is important to me. I think it makes my team feel more confident that they, had someone that was going to help shape that versus having it told to us potentially by people who don't know proposals. And so I think that is one of the biggest payoffs, is that we got to really drive this. And like I said earlier, from a career perspective, I know that I'll always look back and feel like this was one of the biggest things that I probably ever did in my career. And so that feels incredibly, gratifying as well.
It's an exciting time, for sure. Okay, before we wrap up, and I'm going to do some closing remarks, are there any last questions? Vishwas, I feel like I didn't ask you enough questions. Are there any last questions that you'd like us to record an answer to?
No, thank you. Thank you, Amy, for the opportunity. I would just add on to what Carrie was saying towards the answer to the last question. Microsoft has been a leader in putting tenets around responsible AI, making sure that AI is being used in a manner that is transparent, that is accurate. You know what you're getting into. You're determining the outcomes. These are some of the core principles of responsible AI, and we've tried very hard from the beginning to work on these principles, things like the hallucination report, things like the citation or the source report. These are all important elements designed to adhere to the responsible AI principles. So that's one thing I would say. Second, I would say is we're only getting started. LLMs are changing rapidly, as we know. New things are coming out, new models are coming out almost every week. And Carrie talked about the partnership, and I think that's going to be important. We learned so much from the masterclass, to be honest. Uh, I did a couple of sessions, my team conducted other sessions with Marty, and it was a two-way flow of information. Of course, we presented what we had built, but really all of the great questions about, could you have done this differently? Did you take this into account? Those are all questions that we've brought back to our design desk and trying to process through that. And as we are learning more about language models, we expect that the usefulness of a tool like this will only grow. And by bringing people into a class like the master class, and I know there'll be other avenues, Amy, for others to be able to participate in a class like that. Maybe you can talk about that. As people learn more about how tools like this can help, they can provide feedback, and together we can take advantage of this fantastic uh, disruptive technology that has come on the horizon. Uh, AI/ML has been around for a long time, but the generative AI and its potential since the ChatGPT's release has just been amazing. So I just wanted to add that.
Great, thank you. One of the questions that we got from our audience were from people that are working with sensitive information. So one of our audience members asked a question of how do you handle RFPs that have CUI data in them?
Yeah. So I like to say that PWin is available in 3 form factors, and let me explain what I mean. It is, of course, available as a SaaS on Azure Commercial Cloud. It is also available on Azure Gov, where we have gone in and obtained a CMMC Level 2 certification. We started out with a self-assessment, then we hired an independent 3PA organization to come audit the 170 security controls that make up CMMC 2. And by virtue of that, you are able to store RFPs that are designated as CUI RFPs. And the third form factor, if you will, PWin is available as part of Azure Marketplace, which means you have the option to deploy the software through the marketplace within your Azure tenant behind the firewall or within your enclave, essentially.
Okay, so another question that we got from our audience, we had an audience member who has passed proposals, but they don't really feel like their content is very well pulled together and necessarily ready. They don't use a content management system today. So, he was concerned and wondering, how could they even get started with a solution like PWin AI when they haven't already curated their content in a specific way today?
Right. So, Amy Mill, I'll get started and maybe I'll hand it to Carrie in a moment here. So, we start out with, you might have as part of your bid library, your past RFP response that you may have collected. We can certainly ingest that, we can parse that. That's, of course, a good starting point. But I also get questions around, well, we have not responded to proposals in this area, and we don't have a wide cross-section of documents that are available that you can ingest. And in that case, the answer often is that you're able to seed the knowledge repository with information. You could conduct subject matter expert interviews. You can write some guidance documents, which can then be ingested into the knowledge repository as the way to start generating content. Carrie, would you like to add anything to this, please?
Yeah, so by contrast, Microsoft, we do have a really robust content management system. So we have over 20,000 curated Q&A pairs in responsive right now. And so those are broken down and they're tagged and faceted, and it is run by a team of content managers. So for me, the knowledge repository wasn't going to be a SharePoint of past proposals and interviews. It was going to need to connect into this existing repository. And so you can bring your own repository, if you will, and connect it in. And we've also, another requirement that I also had that PWIN can do is connect it to intranet SharePoint sites too. So we have internal sites with technical documentation and training and learning that we wanted it to be able to source for those more technical questionnaire type proposals, and it can do that as well.
So Marty, one other question we got is, what do we do to help companies that are trying to get ready for using PWIN AI or other AI solutions?
Yeah, I would say that as Carrie mentioned, the tens of thousands of curated pieces of content that the Proposal Center of Excellence has, that comes from a highly complex and robust content management practice that Shipley has been following for several years now. And I would say that Shipley's content management capability is something that I think can help a lot of other companies as an important pre-step, perhaps, to going down this road with AI. So even if you haven't begun or even decided to initiate AI adoption, what you can do in any case, which is going to help your proposal center, is perhaps by implementing a strong state-of-the-art content management practice that perhaps you don't already have.
And then finally, our last question, Vishwas, talking with an APMP audience, some of the questions that we got were kind of all fell into a similar theme. What do we do with resumes and CVs that might have, sensitive information in them? What do we do when we work with subcontractors and they share their proposal information with us, but we don't necessarily wanting it going into our knowledge repository because we're not bidding with them on every opportunity in our pipeline? So, how does PWIN AI deal with things like CVs, resumes, subcontractor data?
Yeah, the way, Amy, we deal with the recommendation to our customers or current customers is that you should put in knowledge repository content that is broadly applicable, that you can take advantage of across a cross-section of RFPs. Now, if you wanted to bring in partner content that is specific to a certain RFP or a certain task area, even through the flight plan, we give you the ability to infuse content which is just pertinent to that RFP response. So in this manner, once again, this goes well with the content strategy that Marty was laying out, right? It's not just a matter of just collecting the documents and let it ingest. You have to think carefully about what documents apply. Is this content that truly belongs to you, that you want AI to tap into? Even M365 Copilot, I don't know if people have followed this news lately, you can go into certain sections into SharePoint and say, hey, M365 Copilot, don't look at these folders. We don't want you ingesting that content. So Microsoft wants you to be deliberate about what content gets ingested. The same principle applies here. Put the content in that you want broadly shareable for specific responses, specific task responses, infuse the content from a partner, and we give you ability to do that as part of the flight plan.
Well, for those of you who are still with us, clearly you are the people in our field who are the thought leaders, the people wanting to get ahead of generative AI in the field. Thank you for being with us for the whole conversation. Again, if you want more information, go to shipleybd.ai. You can get access to our book, to our training and to a P1AI demo there. So thank you for being with us.